This is episode 64, and it's August, and I haven't come to you in a while. I think the last time I came to you was in June. It's been a busy July, but a really good July, filled with connects with family, with my mom and my aunt and my cousin, and Dave's sister and brother, and then our nieces and nephews, and now my niece is in from Tennessee, so I'm hoping to see her this week. So it's been everything I think I could have hoped for from July. You know, the weather was up and down, but we got a couple of great beach days in. We had some, have cooked on the grill, had ribs and corn on the cob, and my tomatoes are coming along. So it's been a gentle month. It was a gentle month filled with family and love and a great island vibe. We went downtown for the 4th of July, and yeah, we did all the things. So here we are now in August, and today is August 3rd, I believe. And with all that going on, I have had an incredibly productive 4 or 5 weeks of knitting, and I can't wait to share everything with you. So let's start with what I'm wearing. This is the Seacoast Pullover. This is a Joji Locatelli pattern, and this pattern was done in collaboration with Brooklyn Tweed, and it was originally designed to be done in Shelter, Brooklyn Tweed's Shelter yarn. And the first time I made it, and I'm going to include a clip here, the first time I made it, I used yarn that I got from Northlight Fiber, and it was called Seaside, and I loved the combination and the idea of Seacoast and Seaside. And that was a wool cotton blend, and I had such a great fit, and I've had this pattern on my mind for a long time. So it's a little warm today, but because it's cotton, I think I can get through this podcast with it on. This is 100% organic cotton that I got from Purl Soho. Let's start with the yarn. So as of last episode, I was talking to you about cones, and I have been clearing out my stash and using my stash, and I've been thinking about how do I want to restock my yarn supply. And one thing I did decide is I wanted to have some staples, some maybe cotton, some fingering weight, some DK weight, in cones, on cones, in neutral colors with maybe some pops here and there of color. So that anytime I want to make something that's in fingering weight or DK or cotton, I would have plenty of yardage, because almost all of these cones have well over 2,000 yards on a cone. Instead of having to think about, well, how many skeins am I going to need? What if I decide to make the large instead of the medium? I'm going to need more yarn. What if I want to make it long sleeve and it was a short sleeve design, or I want to make the body longer? I don't want to run out of yarn. I live on an island. We do not have a yarn shop here. I know I can go order online, but as you know, you cannot always get the same dye lot. So that had been on my mind. And I had such a great experience with the cone that I bought a couple of weeks ago that I decided to buy a cone of cotton to make this sweater. So this is the cone. This is what's left on it after I made the sweater. And this is from Purl Soho. It's called Cotton Pure. It's 100% organically grown sport weight cotton. It is called Navy Nightfall. There are 2,789 yards on this cone. It's 22 to 24 stitches to the inch. That's the gauge if you knit it on a 325 US needle, or a 3.25 to a 3.75 millimeter needle. This yarn is machine wash in cold and tumble dry on low. Wow, right? Great properties. So let me just tell you what needle size I use. Okay, so it's the Seacoast. It's a slip rib yoke design. You start at the top. It's top down. Can you see this beautiful slip stitch design? It's starting with a 1x1 rib. The pattern calls for a provisional cast on. Because I've made this before, I knew I wasn't going to need to do a provisional cast on. I just went ahead and did a long tail cast on. I started with that slip rib on a 1x1, and to add stitches, you will make increases in between the two ribs, the two knit stitches of the rib. And so you can see it starts to grow a little bit here. This, see, can you see it here? Yeah, I'm going to also lay this out and show this in a close-up, and I'll include a picture of the pattern. This has some short rows in the back. I did do the short rows. You can see how beautiful it looks on the neck. I love a boat neck, or I like this type of a neckline. I knew when I made this that I was going to have to think about the elasticity of the neck, because in the pattern it says if you had used the recommended yarn that this may be too loose, and I saw pictures of people who had made it and it was too loose and it recommended putting in a seam binding tape. I didn't have to do that when I used the wool and cotton blend, and I did not have to use that here. It fits perfectly. I followed the decreases for the sleeve as the pattern. I did make the sleeves longer because I wanted, you know, I always have trouble with that. I can push them up. I made the body longer. And again, I'll take a picture so you can see the full length. The skill level on this, and I think it's interesting that Joji Locatelli includes that on her patterns, is intermediate. I don't even know if it's all that. I think that if you can do short rows, you can do some wrap and turns. I used the wrap and turn because it was happening in the yoke and you couldn't see it anyway, but you could certainly use the German short rows. I played with the gauge quite a bit. I knew I wanted to use this blue cotton. So I ended up using, the pattern recommended, I believe, a 6 and a 7, a 6 for the ribbing and a 7 for the body, and I just went down a needle size. I used a 5 for the ribbing, I used a 6 for the body, and I got this beautiful fit. You have an opportunity to put some waist shaping in. I'll stand up a little bit so you can see a little bit more. I did not put the waist shaping in. I did on the previous one because this cotton has a nice stretch to it. I didn't feel like I was going to need it, and I did make a fairly small size, knowing I wanted it to, you know, kind of cling to the body, but not like in a bad way. Let's see, what else can I tell you? I told you that the color is Nightfall. Oh, I chose the 3rd size, which would be for a 40.5 inch chest. And I did not use the waist shaping on this. I am so happy with this. And what did I do with the cone? And you know I haven't used half of what's on here. So I'm thinking maybe for next summer or next spring, I may do a blue and white striped kind of French inspired boat neck tee. I also thought these cones of cotton would be great to make a lace skirt or dress. A couple of winters ago, while I was away, I made a white cotton lace skirt, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice to make a nice cotton dress? And here is another thing about the beauty of using a cone when knitting in cotton. When we knit in wool or animal fibers, it's easy enough to weave in and hide your ends, right? They very seldom fall through the front, and especially after you block them. Yarn wants to be sticky and covers up all that. Cotton does not like to be woven. It can slip out. I will often knot if I have to. The only seam you're going to have when you use a comb, and it wasn't even, is you're picking up some stitches underneath the arm. I had to cut the cone once I got to the bottom and, start again for the sleeves. And I did, after I did my weaving, I tied a knot at the end, a tiny little knot, and I don't usually like to knot, but just to be sure that the cotton doesn't try to wiggle out. But minimal weaving because I'm on a cone. So I highly recommend this pattern, Joji Locatelli, the Seacoast pattern, gorgeous. Okay, so what else do we got going on? Well, last time we were together, I was working on this beautiful shawl. And this is the Against the Current Shawl. And I have my notes here, so what can I tell you? It's by Elenor Mortensen. And she's got a lot of great patterns. And this is my first pattern by her, and I'm very interested in looking to see what else she has. I want to make more of her designs. So what I loved about this is you cast on at the very, at the beginning. It's only a 7-inch cast on. And you're building by adding a stitch on every right side row on one side. So one edge is straight and the other, is going to grow this way. A lot of fun little, very repetitive lace work here. Then you introduce some color. And here was the challenge. The pattern said to do these fish in intarsia. And the more I kept thinking about that, it's my least favorite knitting technique, but I was willing to give it a shot when I realized how close the fish really were together, and the distance in carrying, the biggest distance in carrying was when you were starting a new fish. There was like 8 stitches you had to get across. And I just decided, because I was using linen quill for my background color in the oatmeal, which has a little hair on it, that maybe that hair would fill in the spots. And this is knit back and forth, which means you're knitting the pattern in color work on the wrong side. And you're really knitting it on the wrong side upside down, because you start, because of the way you start and the way you're holding your yarn. Can you see? It was not that bad. I carried the floats loosely. I caught the float a minimum, every 4 to 5 stitches, I caught the float. There was only 1 row in each set of fish that I had to carry it, you know, across 8 or 10, and I just, you know, I just carried the float. I didn't even use, I didn't even really use intarsia when I got to the orange fish. Of course, I didn't carry the orange ball, but I carried the white across the orange fish. And that made it a lot easier for me. So I used stranded knitting across all the blue fish. I used stranded knitting across the orange fish, but kept the orange ball just for the orange fish, but I carried the white back and forth. And then you get to use this pretty little kind of fin and feather. They called it a shell pattern here. A couple of episodes ago, I showed you this sweet little magnetic pin that my friend gave me. I think I will use that. It's a starfish. Okay, I'm gonna take it off. Oh, there goes the magnet. That's okay, I'll get it later. I'm gonna take it off, get it a little closer to you. So when I go out on a spring evening or a fall evening and I have this navy blue sweater on and I decide to wear the shawl and I put on my little starfish pin to hold it. Isn't that just gorgeous? So this pattern has also been converted, and I don't know which came first. I don't know if the t-shirt came first or if the shawl came first, but there is a tee. It's a short sleeve tee and it has this fish pattern on it and it's knit in the round, so you won't have to, you know, knit on the wrong side. You won't have to do patterning on the wrong side. But I'm okay with this. So, another finished, happy finished product. And I was also thinking that this, okay, so this pattern is charted and it's written out by the row. So if you don't like to use a chart, you don't have to. This is all written out by the row as well. However, because I have the chart now, I was thinking this could be a fun little pillow. You know, just pick some of the fish and maybe just make a pillow cover to go over one of my couch pillows. We will see. Okay. So the next finished product. All right. Now this one, okay, I used the cone. I've pretty much finished the cone except for maybe 200 yards, is this gorgeous blanket that I have behind me. This is a Purl Soho pattern, which is a free pattern when you buy the yarn, and it may even be a free pattern even if you don't buy the yarn. I don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure. I showed you this last episode. This is the Porto blanket. The inspiration is tiles in Porto, Portugal. There are 9 different patterns incorporated in this. Triangles, this beautiful triangle eyelet. Is this just not gorgeous? And it's a really good size blanket, and I am showing you some photos of this. So again, if you're gonna make something this big and you don't want to have to weave in ends, why not get a cone? So I'm just gonna leave the camera for a second so I get the cone. Okay, I will edit that. I'll edit that. Okay, so here we are. We're back. This is what's left. So let me give you the whole skinny on this. This is a DK, 100% merino. I bought another one in white because I am thinking about making another blanket. So this is a 100% merino wool. It's a light worsted DK weight. There are 2,187 yards on a cone, 1,000 grams. It's 20 to 22 stitches to 4 inches is the gauge if you use a US needle 6 to 8, which is a 4 to 5 millimeter needle. Again, made in Peru, just like the cotton was. I used the cone and ended up, okay, so the cone, as I said, had 2,187 yards. When I was done with the project, I took it off the cone and I weighed it. I have 247 yards left over. And I will definitely incorporate this into something else down the road. This color is called Blue Willow. It is just a gorgeous, celadon green almost, with just little pops of soft blue in there. So this was a project that kept me so engaged, but yet not too, like, because there were 9 different patterns, just when you've kind of maybe had enough of one of them, you had a new pattern to follow. All knits, purls, knit 2-togethers, SSKs, and yarn overs. That's it. I just read somewhere where someone said knitting is so binary because it's just basically knit and purl, right? Knit and purl. And this is just a combination of knit and purls. So they were still having their sale. This was, yarn was, and it still may be, is 25% off for the cones. I just decided to get this heirloom white in the event that I think I need to have another blanket on the needles. And if not, I'll just use this in any project. And look at them together. You know, maybe I'll do something with them together. Okay. The next finished project, I don't have it because it was a gift. It was a baby gift, but I'm showing you a picture of the beautiful overalls. Again, that was a Purl Soho pattern. I used the Purl Soho yarn. They are called the Storybook Overalls by Purl Soho. It's a onesie. I used the Daily Wool Sport yarn. It's machine washable and dryable. This yarn is a superwash yarn. It comes in 24 colors. This was the sweetest, most fun little project. I hadn't knit a baby, anything for a baby in a long time, and I really enjoyed it. I found 2 buttons in my stash that just matched perfectly. I found a little Block Island sweatshirt that had 3 buttons down the back and a little book called Goodnight Moon. And just putting that gift together and knowing that that mother who's had the baby is going to open that and have the overalls. So, you know, the sweatshirt from Block Island, they love going to the beach. So the book is just, you know, a lot about the beach. It's Goodnight Beach. I think I said Goodnight Moon. It's Goodnight Beach. And those little overalls. And they were all in different shades of blue, the whole gift. And so that was a lot of fun. So a theme here, right? I used a lot of Purl Soho product. I used Purl Soho in the blanket. I used it in the overalls. I am very pleased with their packaging and their shipping. When you order over a certain amount, they also send you a little skein of one of their yarns to try. And it usually comes with a couple of little postcards, which I tend to use as bookmarks or to keep notes. I really like Purl Soho, and so there you go. And this, you know, I used quite a bit of my leftover stash, and I used some Miss Babs. This aqua was Miss Babs, and the dark blue was Miss Babs, but the orange and the oatmeal was all from my stash, and that was all linen quill from Purl Soho. I'm not being sponsored by them, but I've just had such beautiful luck with Purl Soho, and this cotton is from Purl Soho. So, and this was also 25% off when I purchased it. So that's what I have completed. What am I thinking about? Well, when you start buying cones of yarn and investing in cones of yarn, I think for me it's become a little bit addictive. And so I was thinking, okay, I've got some sport weight, DK, I have some cotton, and I use a lot of fingering weight. I love fingering weight. I use it in my stranded knitting. I use it in shawls. I've been using up a lot of my stash, and I felt like I just wanted some maybe neutrals or some primary colors to just have in my stash. So This is from Knit Picks. I said Purl Soho was having a sale. Knit Picks was having a sale. Everything I've talked about was Purl Soho, except this is now Knit Picks. I hadn't used Knit Picks in a long time. I oftentimes will use their yarn for socks. But when I saw this sale, so this was $50 for a cone. And these cones, let's see, I got a blue one too. Let me see if I can find the tag. The tag is inside, which makes it a little tricky to see. But once again, there's a lot of yardage on these cones. So, okay. This is pallet cone, fingering weight, 2,310 yards on 500 grams. The gauge is, if you use a US 1 to a US 1 to a 3 needle, you'll have 8 stitches to the inch. This is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, hand wash, dry flat. So this is not a super wash. Also made in Peru. So I had been thinking about what am I gonna knit this winter, this fall, and into the winter and into the spring, and I do like to knit on fingering weight. So I picked up 3 cones. This is called Cayenne. Is that not just gorgeous? Look at that. Well, I already put the tags away, but we've got, you know, a white, a blue, and that gorgeous Cayenne. It doesn't mean I'm going to use them together. I may. I have had the Autumn Alpine sweater on my mind, and I'm going to include a picture of that pattern. I downloaded the pattern. I'm thinking about that. I'm also thinking about another shawl. I don't need another shawl, but this is another shawl. It's called the Amsterdam. I'm including a photo of that. I love Natasha Hornby, her patterns. I made that mosaic knit artist shawl a couple of years ago, and this pattern I'm showing you is a combination of mosaic. So it's possible I may use this fingering weight on that shawl. But once again, I'm going to have enough for any project that I can think of if I want to use these colors. And I have some leftover fingering weight where I can incorporate other colors. So that's kind of where my mind has been as far as my stash. Adding to my stash. I had one more bag of yarn that was in my stash. It has been there. It'll be coming up on 3 years this fall, I believe. That was on the back of my mind, and it's because I went to Barrington a couple of years ago with my cousin to see Gundrun Johnstons. She did a 2-day session at the Stitch Source Yarn Shop in Barrington, Rhode Island, and I bought a ton of black Shetland wool and some other colors to make a pullover. It was called the Porto Pullover. Porto blanket, Porto Pullover. But you know, when I got home and I looked at all this yarn and I looked at the sweater pattern, I just didn't love it for me. And so it's been sitting and it's been sitting, and I know it's been there, and I was like, what do I want to make? And then Gundrun Johnston just posted on Ravely and on Instagram that she's doing a cowl. The cowl started July 31st, and it's for the Vaddel, Vaddel, cardigan and or pullover, and she's including both in the pattern, and I'm including that photo right now. And this yarn that pattern is calling for the yarn that I had in my stash. This is Jamison's Shetland Spindrift. This is from the Shetland Islands. It's just gorgeous yarn. Let's see, what can I tell you about the gauge? So if you use the recommended needle size for the yarn on the yarn wrapper, it's for a US 3, which is a 3.25, and that will give you 30 stitches to 4 inches. So I had all this Shetland wool in my stash. I had black, a lot of black, because I wanted to make the base of the sweater in black. So I had a lot of black. You know me, I had to have a blue. I picked up this sweet rosy red and this gold. And I had a green as well, because I was going to make that other sweater. So I was looking at all these colors, and I was trying to mix and match them, and I decided on these 4. I decided to make the black my main color and to make these my contrasting colors. So I cast this on yesterday, and this is how fast this is going. I cast on yesterday. I am making the cardigan. So this is the back. This was a long tail cast on. So you cast on, well, I've increased quite a few stitches. So you cast on, and you're going to put markers for the raglan. So here's the markers for the raglan. Oh, I have it upside down. Here we go. Now we go. That was the top, but here we go now. I have markers for the sleeves. This is the back, marker for the sleeves and the front. So I'll turn it this way again. So that is the back. And now we're coming across the sleeve, and this is the front. And eventually we will pick up stitches here to make the neck band. And then we'll pick up stitches down the fronts for the button band. And there's a tutorial on YouTube if you decide to make this, where Gundrun herself will discuss, you know, about this. This is a slip stitch pattern. I love a slip stitch. So sometimes you're slipping with the yarn in the front, sometimes you're slipping with the yarn in the back. And I decided that I'm going to use most blue and gold and occasionally a pop of red. I'm making the cardigan long sleeve. I'll probably make it a little bit longer. So this has been fun, and I'm using up a lot of my stash because I have a lot of this. All right, what else did I want to share with you? Oh, I can tell you probably, can I tell you a little bit more about it? I guess I told you everything. It's worked in one piece back and forth. Eventually you will, you know, hold the stitches for the sleeves and then just work back and forth on the body. Now, I don't love doing color work on the wrong side, but you're just purling. Every wrong side row is just a purl row, and I don't mind purling at all. And it's a combination raglan, which means initially you're decreasing every right side row before and after the markers for the front, the sleeve, and the back. And after a certain point, here's where the combination comes in. You will only be increasing for the sleeve every other row. So you do have to kind of keep track of that. It's not charted, it's all written. So once again, if you don't like a chart, I think you would enjoy this. And I'll keep you posted, we'll see how it goes. I decided to make the 4th size. I hope I don't regret that. I don't think it'll be too big, but I wanted it to feel like a cardigan, yes, but like a jacket too. Like I could get something significant underneath there. A turtleneck and, you know, even a heavier sweater, one of my wool sweaters. So that's what I'm working on right now. And a little update on the garden, and I'll show you some little clips here. I'm gonna have some big fat tomatoes that I can hopefully pick in a few more days and have a nice big tomato sandwich. I don't know what's going on with my zucchini. I have tons of flowers, but no zucchini. I don't think I had pollination going on there maybe, so it's my first year growing them. And everyone tells me, oh, don't grow zucchini. You're not gonna know what to do with it by the end of the season. Well, yeah, I'm buying zucchini, so I don't think I'm gonna have that problem. I put in 4 eggplants. I haven't had a flower yet. So I don't know. My celery is doing great. The parsley's good. All the herbs are good. Cherry tomatoes are looking good. Zinnias, cutting the zinnias every couple of days to bring them in the house to enjoy them. Same thing with the cosmos. My hydrangea is just still producing just, you know, a couple of nice big heads. So the garden's been looking great. We've had enough rain. I know there's a drought going on or floods going on, but for some reason in New England, we've had a little rain, a couple of sunny days, a little rain, a couple of sunny days. So it's been good. It's been good for the plants. I think that's really all I had for you today. As far as August goes, we have no company scheduled right now. We have a friend on the island who's, you know, staying on her boat, so we'll probably hook up with her tomorrow. But other than that, August is sort of just free. I'm gonna hopefully connect with my family and see my cousin coming in from Tennessee. I have been reading. I don't really have a book review for you right now other than to tell you The Calamity Club was all it's been cracked up to be. It was a wonderful read. It's a big book, over 600 pages, but I plowed right through it. I loved the characters. Somebody posted that they loved reading it so much that when it was over that they were really missing the characters, so they decided to do the audio, and they really enjoyed the audio, so I will keep that in mind at some point. But yeah, I don't really have anything really good to tell you about as far as books go. I'm listening to an audio, it's okay. I'm reading a book, it's okay. Nothing spectacular. I have downloaded Yesteryear I'll tell you more about it next time if it's good. And my cousin gave me a few tips today, so just knitting and enjoying this summer and family and friends, and happy to be back with you. I hope you're having a good summer, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.